So, end time English, pasensya. Anyway, you can still ask questions. So, I'd like to share two things. There is progressive revelation on this subject. Our previous understanding, of course, the foolish will not go up in the rapture. The foolish are saved. Now, Brother Branham, I quote that the sleeping virgins will be awakened after the millennium. Do you know that quote? That's in the COD. Well, it could cause you to ask questions in the Bible, since the Bible is the absolute. Those that were, please open up. Revelation chapter 20, verse 6, 5 and 6. In the Bible, those that will be resurrected after the millennium, after the little season, they will be judged in the lake of fire, in the great white throne judgment. But the rest of the dead, so Barbara applied the foolish virgin to the rest of the dead. Live not again until the 1,000 years are finished. So these rest of the dead will be resurrected in the second resurrection, not the first resurrection. When you read that part, this is the first resurrection, Christ was referring to the verse 4. To those in verse 4, go up to verse 4. They belong to the first resurrections, those that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus' sake. So, if you have a tabulation in the end time, the first category of teaching here in the Philippines, they believe the foolish virgins were beheaded and will be in verse 4, and they will be resurrected in the first resurrection. The second category, the second times, to the third kind, to the fourth kind, believe, category teaching in the Philippines in the message, believe that the foolish virgins will be resurrected in the second resurrection, because from that quote of Brother Branham. Now let's go down. I'd like to explain something. Now of course, we believe about the prophet. There's progressive revelation. There's canon Christ. But most of what everyone wants is the hidden mystery. I said they want them because they want to extol him as though he's the absolute. But I'm going to share a hidden mystery. But it doesn't mean we're making him an absolute. The Bible still are absolute. Because any person's statement could be understood different ways. So now, we're going back to the Bible. Here in verse 5, if the foolish virgin were part of the second resurrection, that would mean they have no salvation. Why? Here in verse 6, blessed and holy is he that is part of the first resurrection. So blessed are those that are part of the first. If you're not part of the first, you're not blessed. You're in big trouble. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God, and of Christ shall reign in 1,000 years. So if you're not part of the first, you will have a second death. Now, let's talk about the third. This is the new subject I'm going to share. I've shared this before. The term foolish virgin is a transitory term. The reason I want to stand up is because I haven't mentioned this last time. Do we believe we are wise? Do you want to be wise?
Amen.
Who wish to be a wise virgin? Say amen. Amen. Raise your hands.
Amen.
Everyone who wants to be a wise virgin, raise your hands. Okay. Now let me ask you something. Before you became wise, were you fools before? Were you foolish before?
Yes.
You were. You were foolish before. Before you became wise. Now, most understand the midnight cry is Matthew 25 as only in the end times, only in the Laodicea age. Because they apply the midnight cry to the prophet. There's nothing wrong with that. But could you progress your understanding that every star messenger is also that midnight cry. Could you progress your understanding to the point that the whole church ages, there's this type of parable as the voice of God, the midnight cry. Now, it's not just the end time prophet messenger. Every star messenger in every age, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Every star messenger in every age would have that. So now, how would you apply the wise and foolish virgins if it's not in the end times? How about the rapture? How about those that were kept out? The answer is simple. Same as what will happen in the tribulation. That's why they were left behind. It's because during the ages, those that were foolish was late in their revelation. It is possible that the foolish will lose her virginity. And I gave that verse before, if you remember. How many remembers that verse? You will lose your virginity. 2 Corinthians 11, 2 and 3. If you can lose your virginity, then you have to understand the word foolish and virgin does not go permanently. Either you lose your virginity or you lose your foolishness. And why did I say also that foolish and virgin does not go permanently hand in hand? As a term. It's a transitory term. It's not a permanent term. Because foolishness is wickedness. Daniel 12:10. The wise shall understand, but the wicked shall not understand. It's not written they're foolish. But if you understand, if they don't understand, the word wicked does not understand, it's understood they're foolish. So the foolish could be any person today in real time. I'm not talking of beyond time. In real time that is going against the message. They could be pretending to be the message but going against the progressive revelation of God. They could be the denominations. The denominations thinking they have the oil, they have the gift, but they also go against the message of God. They go against the present truth. So, either you lose your foolishness or you lose your virginity. Now, in every age, before a person became wise, he passed through foolishness. Understand what I'm saying? Every person who became wise was foolish before. So every person that became wise learned when he was still foolish. He learned to become wise from who? The wise. Again, let me rephrase it. Every foolish that would later become wise, they got instructions from the wise.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
They were not buying in the marketplace yet, but the wise gave them instruction. Go to them that sell and buy for yourselves. The wise are not giving them instructions so that they will be in trouble. To put them in trouble so that they will be left behind. The wise are giving them instructions because that's what the wise did. That's why they had extra oil in their vessels. So every foolish in the church ages, from the beginning to the dark ages to the end, every foolish virgins received instructions from the wise. That's later they became wise. They repented of their foolishness. They maintained their virginity for the coming of Christ. Even until death, they've been faithful unto death. So, when the foolish that became wise in the church ages, the parable still goes, its application still goes, its continuity, its fulfillment until the end. 1 minute. I'd like to share something else. So give me 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Okay, I'll cut this for the moment. What suffice it to say, this is a transitory term. This is a transitory term. Even in the church ages, it's applied. in the tribulation period, the foolish that would have got themselves beheaded, they would become wise. They will not remain foolish. The fact that they listened to the prophets, the fact that they let themselves be beheaded for the witness. Take note, for the witness, not for eyes that wasn't. For the witness of Jesus' sake, then that is your ticket. You became wise, even if it costs you your life. Now, the second thing I want to say before I get down is another quote from the Brother Branham. What Brother Renato shared here is from the prophet. The prophet said, like Judas, he was sanctified, he was justified, he was sanctified, but he didn't receive the baptism of the Holy Ghost. So, I shared a long time ago that there's another approach of preaching this, that justification, sanctification, even predestination, eternal security, baptism of the Holy Ghost, these are all corporate, these are all as a package, as a full package. This is not partial, as though these are steps to perfection. But the prophet presented it that way. So when Brother Lat was presenting this, I just realized anybody can say you were against the prophet. You're against the prophet. You should have a different presentation from the prophet. Let me draw my example of package deal or package, full package of salvation. Imagine a box. You have 6 sides. This side, upper side, left side, right side, even goes behind. These are the different facets of the principles of salvation. You understand different facets? Salvation, if you open your Apostles' Doctrine, there's the principles of salvation. These principles of salvation are one package full. One full package. One whole package. It's not something that is parcelized or partialized. Now, let me give you an explanation from what the prophet said. I'm not going to directly say the prophet was wrong or explanation was falling short. What I would say, again, is a hidden mystery. There's nothing wrong with that explanation because a while ago, while I was sharing Barnabas, this came to me. This further clarification. There's nothing wrong if the prophet would say, if you will also say, it started with justification, justification, but you must continue on. If you don't continue on, you will not eventually see the light. A long time ago, I shared about that this phenomena about eternal security and predestination beyond time and in real time. Who remembers that? Who remembers that? Okay, raise your hand so I will note some. So when it's beyond time, it is beyond the before the foundation of the world. It's eternal. It is in the Logos. It's permanent. It's fixed. It's decided. It's predestinated. If it's in real time, it's in our temporal time. It's still taking place. And the book of life that should be, whose names should be still be blotted out, are in real time. The book of life that is the Lamb's book of life that was written before the foundation of the world, those are permanent. Okay, those are predestinated before the foundation of the world. Now, what I wish to say here regarding this subject, the explanation of Branham could still be used if we apply it in real time. Did you know that Judas was saved in real time? But not in beyond time. Beyond time, that's predestination. God knew his decision eventually. He that continues up to the end. And this is a very long explanation. You just ask about it. Just borrowed some things about this eternal security and predestination beyond time and in real time. Conditional eternal security and unconditional eternal security. So, going back to this, if you talk about the beyond time predestination of God, that is the full package I'm talking about. You cannot say you're justified but you were not saved. You're sanctified but you were not saved. You could say you were justified temporarily in real time. There are several scriptures for that. You can say you're sanctified temporarily. You can even say you had the baptism of the Holy Ghost temporarily. But what is permanent is the word seal of the Holy Ghost. Now going back to this. Those are in real time. So the explanation of the prophet could be in real time because Judas should have continued up to the end. This is what Christ said. If you continue up to the end, then you shall be saved. He that endures up to the end shall be saved. He did not endure. He gave up. He committed suicide. But if it's before the foundation of the world, beyond time, the Lamb's Book of Life, it is finished. Everyone predestinated. Everyone that is justified is also sanctified, we will be glorified. One verse that could be used for these gradual steps is Romans 8:29. He that is foreknew, then predestinated, then sanctified and glorified. But even, again, I say, there are two perspectives in the Bible. Beyond time. In beyond time, in the eternal mind of God, in the Logos, everything is corporate. In that kind of statement, in that kind of dimension, those who are temporarily justified are not really justified if you did not reach the finish line. If you did not run into the end. So there are two kinds of statements here. There's nothing wrong with that. You just need this deeper understanding to this. So that's all. God bless you all.